What if the Rockets beat the Warriors in 2018? Game 7, 2018 Western Conference Finals. Houston up at halftime. The so-called unbeatable Warriors suddenly look human. Then comes the disaster, brick after brick. 27 straight missed threes. One of the greatest upsets in NBA history vanishes in real time. At this point, Houston fans probably wanted to unplug the rim and check for magnets. But here's the thing. Flip just 4 of those misses into makes and the entire NBA timeline, dynasties, legacies, contracts changes forever.
I agree that Chris Paul makes a difference. I disagree that they had got more open looks. They had wide open looks and the basket just seemed like it was shrinking. And whatever the cause, you missed 27 in a row and you cannot absorb that type of bad shooting against a team.
Every dynasty has a breaking point. For the Warriors, that crack was Game 7, sitting right there, waiting for Houston to smash it wide open. This wasn't just a series, it was the fork in the road for the entire league. Houston had the Warriors on the ropes, the door to history wide open, but they never stepped through. So, today we're walking through that door into the alternate universe where James Harden, Chris Paul, and the Rockets didn't just battle the Warriors, they broke them.
I actually need no time. They miss CP3. It's just that simple. If you have CP3 on the court with you, there's no way that you're missing 27 straight three-pointers. That's not going to happen. Somebody is going to make a three because they're going to have more open shots than contested shots, and chances are going to elevate exponentially.
In 2018, Houston Rockets weren't just another challenger throwing haymakers at the Warriors. They were a weapon forged in Daryl Morey's analytics lab with one singular mission: destroy Golden State. 65 wins, best record in the league, a defense that could switch everything from point guard to center without breaking a sweat, and an offense fueled by Harden's isolation brilliance, Chris Paul's surgical half-court control, and an army of snipers waiting to bury you from deep. Daryl Morey called it the only formula to beat Golden State: spread the floor, rain freeze, and switch every screen until even Steph and KD feel like they're drowning. And for 6 games, it worked perfectly. Houston wasn't just hanging with the Warriors, they were beating them. Up 3-2 in the Western Conference Finals, Oracle Arena felt like a funeral home. The so-called juggernaut was wobbling on shaky legs. But then, with less than a minute left in Game 5, disaster struck. Chris Paul clutched his hamstring, and you could literally hear Houston's championship dreams tearing.
Well, they might have to drag him because you know he's not going to come off the court. But he is hurt right now, limping, walking gingerly and slowly to the sideline. Again, look at the play on the other half of the court. This is the most important play of the game.
That single injury changed the fate of the Rockets, and perhaps the entire NBA, because even with CP3 sidelined, Houston still had their chance. In Game 7, they stormed into halftime up double digits. The Warriors were rattled. The building was electric. The crown was there for the taking. Then came the drought that still haunts Houston fans in their sleep. 27 straight missed threes. 27 daggers to the heart. The longest call streak in playoff history. With possession after possession where just one make could have flipped everything. But imagine, if a few of those shots, clean looks from Ariza, Gordon, even Harden, actually dropped, or better yet, imagine Chris Paul's hamstring never betrayed him and he was out there controlling the tempo in crunch time. In either scenario, Houston doesn't just survive Golden State, they break them. And once you break a dynasty, you don't just win a series, you rewrite the entire direction of a league. Picture the aftermath: Steph and Clay walking off in stunned silence. Kevin Durant staring into that tunnel, realizing the unbeatable team just got beaten. Draymond Green, the emotional core of their empire, suddenly looking more fragile than fearsome. The entire NBA was built on one assumption: Golden State was inevitable. They weren't just a team, they were basketball's final boss, the level you couldn't beat. But in this alternate timeline, the Rockets proved even giants have glass jaws. No attempt at three-peat, no aura of invincibility, nobody can beat the Hamptons 5. Instead, the conversation flips completely, because that title wouldn't just rewrite the standings, it would rewrite careers. Harden isn't the guy who chokes in the playoffs. He's the MVP who slayed the most talented roster ever assembled. Chris Paul isn't the ringless legend. He's the veteran who finally conquered his demons, changing every CP3 debate overnight. Mike D'Antoni isn't a coach who can't win the big one. He's the mad scientist who cracked the uncrackable code. And for Daryl Morey, the GM who bet everything on math, spacing, and threes, his Morey ball philosophy becomes gospel. Instead of critics pointing to that Game 7 cold spell, the entire league spends the next decade copying the Rockets' playbook even faster than they already did. That Game 7 becomes the moment the NBA splits in two. One timeline where Golden State continues its stranglehold, and another where Houston rips the crown away and kicks off its own dynasty. And if the Rockets walk through that door, they've headed straight for a collision with LeBron James and his Cleveland Cavaliers, but this matchup tells a very different story than Warriors-Cavs. The regular season gave us a preview. Houston swept the Cavs 2-0, including a 120-88 demolition in Cleveland that looked less like a basketball game and more like a warning. The Cavs finished the season ranked 29th in defense, and the Rockets were built to exploit that weakness. Imagine Harden and Chris Paul hunting mismatches against Kevin Love, J.R. Smith, and George Hill, possession after possession. Imagine Eric Gordon coming off the bench and cooking a second unit that couldn't guard a folding chair. Meanwhile, Houston's defense wasn't flashy, but it was ruthless. Switch everything. Force LeBron into tough shots, and trust Tucker, Ariza, and Capella to turn every drive into a war. LeBron would still go supernova. His 51-point Game 1 was unreal, but Houston wasn't Golden State. They didn't need finesse or rhythm. They thrived in the grind. So what happens? In this timeline, Harden and CP3 overwhelmed Cleveland's porous defense. For role players, Gordon, Ariza, Tucker hit big shots when it matters, and the Rockets claimed their first title since Hakeem's glory days. In 5 games, maybe 6, Houston's crown is secured. And just like that, the entire NBA map gets redrawn. Harden with a ring, CP3 with a ring, D'Antoni with a ring, and the Warriors dynasty no longer untouchable. But the championship is just the beginning of this butterfly effect, because every winner creates a loser, and if Houston takes their crown in 2018, the Warriors dynasty takes a hit. So, what happens when the unbeatable team cracks a year early? Kevin Durant had sacrificed everything to join the Warriors to build something untouchable, a super team that nobody could stop. But if Houston takes them out in year 2, suddenly KD isn't the guy leading an unstoppable force. He's the guy who left Oklahoma City to join a team that couldn't even repeat. Does he stick around for unfinished business? Or does the tension with Draymond and the whispers about his legacy push him out even sooner? And what about Steph and Klay? Instead of chasing a three-peat, they're defending their pride. That aura of inevitability, the sense that Golden State had broken basketball, vanishes overnight. Suddenly, every team in the West feels like they've got a shot. Even Draymond Green's role shifts dramatically. Instead of being the heartbeat of an unstoppable dynasty, he risked becoming the emotional leader of a team that couldn't close the deal when it mattered most. In short, if the Rockets finish the job, the Warriors don't walk into 2019 as the league's final boss. They walk in wounded, vulnerable, maybe even beatable. And when a dynasty starts to wobble, all eyes turn to the biggest piece holding it together, Kevin Durant. In our reality, after back-to-back final MVPs, KD still felt like an outsider in Golden State. The Draymond tension, the easy road narrative, it all pushed him toward that Brooklyn exit in 2019. But imagine this timeline where the Warriors get humiliated before achieving their three-peat. The infamous Durant-Draymond screaming match from November 2018 doesn't happen in isolation. It happens after a crushing defeat to Houston when emotions are already at breaking point. This creates two possible scenarios, both fascinating. Either KD runs from the challenge, making his departure seem even more questionable, or he doubles down with vengeance on his mind. A revenge-motivated Warriors core of Durant, Curry, and Thompson might be the most terrifying thing basketball has ever seen. But here's the catch. That kind of pressure and internal tension could have sent the whole thing crashing down a year early, completely reshaping the league's power structure. So, While the Warriors are left asking questions, the Rockets enter 2019 with all the answers. They walk in as defending champions, and everything about their trajectory changes. Trevor Ariza's free agency suddenly looks different. In reality, he chased that $15 million payday in Phoenix, but coming off a championship run, the chance to chase a repeat might outweigh any amount of money, or Houston finds creative ways to keep their proven core together. Clint Capella's already locked up long-term. Eric Gordon's stock soars as the certified third scorer on a championship team. PJ Tucker finally gets the respect his relentless toughness deserves. Suddenly, Houston's supporting cast isn't just solid, they're championship proven. Without the pressure of being a must-win-now desperation move, the Carmelo experiment gets more runway. Championship teams have the luxury of patience. Melo might figure it out and become a legitimate contributor for years 2 and 3 of Houston's dynasty. Now, picture the 2019 Western Conference playoffs in this timeline. Instead of falling to Golden State in 6 games, the Rockets are the defending champions with their core intact. The pressure isn't on them, it's on everyone else trying to dethrone the Kings. In that world, it's not hard to envision Houston making another finals run, potentially launching a dynasty of its own. And while the Rockets are building their empire, there's a seismic shift happening. LeBron James taking his talents to Los Angeles. In our timeline, the Lakers' move was about Hollywood, business, and legacy beyond basketball. But here's the twist. What if LeBron's West Coast journey becomes even tougher because Houston was in the way? Instead of facing a Western Conference eventually ruled by whoever could challenge Golden State, LeBron runs face first into Harden at his absolute peak. CP3 finally wins his ring and validation, and a Houston team that knows exactly how to win when it matters. This completely changes how we evaluate LeBron's late career climb. The 2020 Lakers title was supposed to be the crown jewel of his second act in Los Angeles, but if Houston owned 2018 and 2019, that crown sits a lot higher on top of a mountain instead of a hill, and the GOAT debate shifts accordingly. Remember, free agency is a domino game where every major decision creates ripple effects across the league. If Houston wins in 2018, maybe Kawhi doesn't target Toronto the same way in 2019. Maybe the Clippers' entire 2-superstar strategy shifts completely. Maybe Anthony Davis's trade to LA plays out under entirely different circumstances with different leverage and different timelines. Because when one team rewrites history at this level, everyone else is forced to adjust their plans or risk being left behind. So what do you think? If the Rockets had just hit 4 more threes in Game 7, are we talking about Harden and CP3 as champions? Maybe even the birth of a Houston dynasty? Or do you think Golden State would have come back stronger and crushed them anyway? Drop your take in the comments. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this dive into NBA What If history, and make sure you subscribe because we've got plenty more coming your way.